Hi friends, today I thought it might be fun. I just felt like painting, getting a little whimsical and painting this fun little bee. I love painting bees. So that's what I thought I would play with today. I'm going to use my Princeton 8 Velvetouch round. Of course, as you know, I love these Staccato brushes, which are great for beginners because you can get the whole round set for maybe $15. The Princeton Velvetouch round, I think, is about $8 for just one. So I'm going to be using that. I'm using, as you know, my favorite paper because I paint so much is these Artisto pads. I love, they have such a beautiful texture, so I'm using that. It's 140-pound cold press. And today I will be playing with my Winsor Newton paints. All right, what I'm gonna do first is I've already sprayed my paints to get them activated, and I have my paper towel, I have my 2 containers of water. One is to wash my brush, one to rinse. And going to go into my cad yellow here, fairly a watery consistency. And let's just start with maybe the head of the bee. I'm gonna keep this kind of loose and just fun, leaving a little spot for his tiny little bee eye. And then go into his body, picking up a little bit more paint. Don't really want puddles here. And maybe right here. And as I move back, I'm gonna go ahead and paint some yellow, but I really want to, I'm hoping to add in some purples and fun quin magenta, which is my favorite color. I'm washing and rinsing my brush. I'm going to tap it off, and I think I will go into maybe, I'm gonna try this, which is, let's see, I think this is burnt umber here. On my palette, I just switched around my palette a tiny bit, got rid of some old colors. And I'm going with a darker value, so it's got a little bit more paint to water. And if you think you have too much water, just dab it off. Just going to touch in here and there. Or if it spreads too much, that means you might have a little more water than you might want. And just start adding some tiny little touches. There we go. Wash and rinse my brush, tap it off. And now let's play with that beautiful quin magenta, as you know, my favorite color. I don't want to have too much water on here because I've already got quite a bit of water in there. So if you think you have too much, make sure and tap off. And then let's start adding that in. And as you also may know, quin magenta and yellow is just so pretty. I just love those colors together. So there we go. Yeah, I think that's pretty. Okay. Wash and rinse my brush. Let's maybe pick up a little purple. I'm really getting colorful here, you guys. Again, I'm picking up a little bit darker value, but just scraping off so I don't have too much water in there because I've already got quite a bit of wetness here. Just tap off a tiny bit. Violet in Winsor Newton too can be pretty potent, so be a little careful there. And there we go. Yeah, kind of like that. Wash and rinse my brush. Now I like to do my wings on my bees while, before this dries, I'm sorry, let me just go back a tiny bit, because while his little bee body is wet, I want to pick up some cad orange. I'm going to water that down a bit. And then tap off. See all the water that came off? That would have been way too much on my painting. And kind of go in here and there. Again, just letting it do what it wants to do. There we go. Wash and rinse my brush again. Tap it off. And for wings of a bee, I like to go in while this is wet and with a damp brush pull out with clear water. I have no paint on my brush. And I'm just going to pull out a wing. Point, press, and open up. And then let the colors kind of do their own thing. I'll do another one to the other side. Might want to make this a little bit bigger. Something like that. And then point, press. There we go. Now while that's wet, I think I will go in with a tiny bit of this turquoise and tap in here and there. Wash and rinse my brush, dry it off. And just kind of push that around. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of fun. I might even add maybe just a tiniest bit. Just the tip of my brush barely. I think that'll bring some coherency with the body. There we go. Yeah, I like that. I'm just, like I said, I'm getting really playful here. And what I will do now is I'm going to use ever so tiny amount of my Payne's Gray, which I like because it has a little bit of a bluish tint in it. And just create those little separations that you see in little bee bodies. And then I might even, I think I'll let this dry first, maybe just his little nose. And you can also use a pen if it's too hard to hold your brush still, but I'm going to use just barely the softest pressure with the tip of my brush for his little antennae. Like that. All right, and maybe bring out his tiny little leg from the back. Again, if this is too tiny of work for you, you can use a pen, but I'm gonna go ahead and use that. And then I'm gonna let this dry just a bit before I go in and create his little legs. Just wash and dry my brush. And I like the wings. I like how they're kind of transparent, but not completely. I might just go in and add a little bit more of that blue. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of pretty. There we go. And we could go in and add his eye, but make sure this is dry, because if it isn't, it's just going to turn into a big giant mess. And his eye is kind of like a teardrop. Something like that. Yeah, it's cute. And there you go. We're basically already done, except for maybe a couple little legs. And why don't we even mix some of that Payne's Gray, or I'm going to, with a tiny bit of the turquoise. I think that's kind of pretty. Now this might still be a little wet. Let's just do the bottom part of the leg first. There we go. Something like that. Really hesitant to go in there because I don't want it to turn into a big blob. And then I think I'll do, this is really some little work, so I could even right now use my 6 long, which is a little bit thinner. And again, you could use a waterproof ink marker if you really want. And go in. Yeah, I think this is a little bit easier. If ever in doubt, if you've got too much water, just dab it off on your paper towel. Yeah, there we go. That was what I was going for there. And maybe his little tiny, there we go. So there we go. I think that's kind of fun. You can always lighten and pick up by rinsing your brush and drying it off, and pick up a little bit of paint to create some highlights on his body like that. Maybe even in here. So there you go. Now all we need is a little flower below him. And I think you're all set. I really like this little guy, and they are always fun. Now that was a little too much water to add in to your paintings, I think. So get creative. It doesn't, you know, these little bees and things don't have to be always yellow. They can really be whatever color you want. Maybe just define that wing there. Something like that. I might even lighten this up a bit to make it look a little bit more transparent by drying my brush and picking it back up. So there you go. Just a fun little bee for today. Yeah, I think that's fun. All right, you guys, I hope you give this little guy a try and maybe add him into some of your paintings. And I will see you soon. All right, bye-bye.